If you knew me 5 years ago, I was really out on PTA because I didn't like Punch Drunk Love or the first half of Boogie Nights when I first watched it. And then I watched The Master and it totally flipped the script on PTA for me. And now I am like the world's biggest PTA fan. One battle after another
You
is.
you watched the second half of Boogie Nights and saw Dirk Diggler's penis, and you were like, okay,
I was like, now I'm in.
now I'm in.
I'm in. It was just, yeah, Punch Drunk Love was missing a lot of penis. So that's why it didn't work for me. But
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Pole Position, the podcast. I'm your host, Jacob Holmes, joined once again, back like they never left. It's Bryan, Loomis, and Stitt. Thank you guys for joining me once again to talk about Oscars. Today we are getting into the Best Director race, which does not have a lot of contenders, I don't feel like, at this point. But it's very interesting in the terms of, I think there are 6 really strong options probably for 5 spots. So it's kind of like who will get the snub is really the question. So we'll dive right into the conversation. As exciting as it is to figure out which person will be left out, I don't think there's a lot of doubt right now, at least among most pundits, who the front runner in this race is. With all the love that's out there right now for one battle after another, it feels like the Academy's most likely to give Paul Thomas Anderson the award for Best Director. Um, it feels like they're jonesing to give him an award to recognize his body of work as a whole, and as an individual award, it feels like Best Director is the award to give him. We're going to talk about screenplay later, but director feels kind of like that's going to happen for PTA. Um, Whether or not the film gets Best Picture and screenplay is another conversation. But so I have Paul Thomas Anderson pretty easily, safely at number 1 on my list. Raph, do you have PTA at number 1?
of course, that's my boy. Love PTA, which is very funny. If you knew me 5 years ago, I was really out on PTA because I didn't like Punch Drunk Love or the first half of Boogie Nights when I first watched it. And then I watched The Master and it totally flipped the script on PTA for me. And now I am like the world's biggest PTA fan. One battle after another is.
You watched the second half of Boogie Nights and saw Dirk Diggler's penis, and you were like, okay,
I was like, now I'm in.
Now I'm in.
I'm in. It was just, yeah, Punch Drunk Love was missing a lot of penis. So that's why it didn't work for me. But
This
one
is
battle
definitely
after another
going
is
before the title
incredible.
card now. This conversation is getting moved before the title card.
We're
One of the
starting off
best.
strong tonight.
Bryan is having a few small beers, so it all feels very on brand. Yeah, it's probably the best directed movie that I've seen so far this year. PTA is one of the best working directors in the game right now in Hollywood right now. You know, we don't want him to get the I'm rocking my The Shining t-shirt, so we don't want him to get the Kubrick treatment of never being recognized by the Academy, but we also don't want him to get the Marty treatment where he wins his best director award for something, 10, 15 years later that is not his best work. Give it to him now. One battle after another is, at least from what I've seen, the best directed thing of the year. Obviously he has the career to deserve a million of these. Probably should have won for There Will Be Blood. I was going to say No Country for Old Men, but that's very much so the movie that he lost to. Yeah, there's no doubt that he's number 1 in this race, and it's his award to lose.
Very neat.
Awesome. Sorry about that. Bryan, are you also in agreement with PTA at number 1?
I am. I actually right now have a split picture and director. Jacob and Raph know that I'm I think that sentimental value is underrated and could take Best Picture. So that's what I have in my predictions right now. But I think the respect for Paul Thomas Anderson and what the director's branch will want to do is it's going to be more prone to say, for Paul Thomas Anderson, this is one of his very best works, and we're also rewarding the body of work for someone that we like quite a bit who's been working for 3-4 decades now. And so I could see it being a split year. If One Battle After Another doesn't sweep, I could still see Paul Thomas Anderson getting in here. So that's what I have right now.
The question becomes, if we're giving him the Marty treatment, who are the directors who are presenting the award? Who are PTA's best buddies in the industry to give him his best director Oscar? Is it Tarantino? Who would it be?
You might do like the group of like the 90s directors, so you could have like, I don't know if they're all buddies, but Fincher, the Coens, and Tarantino would be really fun.
Oh, that would be cool.
Yeah.
So I also, like Bryan, I have a split in picture and director, but my split is Hamnet still in first place. We may in a couple of weeks revisit Best Picture, and who knows where we'll be at that point. But um, speaking of Hamnet, at number 2 on my list is the director of Hamnet, Chloe Zhao. And there's some argument that you could have that she's a bit less likely to win because she won Best Director and Best Picture just 5 years ago, obviously. So the Academy won't feel a necessary itch to give her more hardware because they've already recognized her. But I don't think they're going to ignore her as a nomination, especially when she's really probably the only female director that has a chance this year. And also, the movie is just praised by about, seems like 90% of people absolutely love Hamnet, and a few people don't. And I think people's reviews point to, like, you can really feel her direction all over it. So I think it's a really strong piece. Um, Raf, do you have Chloe Zhao in your 5?
I do. She's my number 3. I think we know that the Academy likes her from, by all accounts. It sounds like Hamnet is incredible, and part of that is her direction. I do think, while you were speaking, I think it was interesting. The idea that like the Academy won't give her 2 in 5 years. I wonder if it'll be more of that, or more so that the 2020 pictures, like the other movies that Nomadland was competing against, were just like not that strong. Whereas this year she would be going up against Paul Thomas Anderson, which, um, all respect to Chloe Zhao, like she is a very, very talented filmmaker, but Paul Thomas Anderson is, potentially like Mount Rushmore American directors. So I think it would be more so that than not wanting to give her 2 statues within 5 years. But I do think that she will be nominated.
Yeah. I've also got her at number 3 here. I think she is pretty much a lock to be nominated given the rapturous response to Hamnet. And honestly, just some of the other, I don't know. I think, Jacob, like you said, there are 6 pretty strong contenders here. But after that, I think some of the other contenders have fallen off a little bit, perhaps. But I'm sure we'll get into that. So I think she's pretty safe here in terms of a nomination.
Gotcha. Okay, so we've both got them on all our lists. Raf, who do you have at number 2?
At number 2, I've got my boy Josh Safdie from Marty Supreme. We've been talking about it all year. Who is the Safdie brother with the real juice? I think we've seen enough reviews from both films to lean towards Josh, which I think I know Bryan was also leaning that way from the jump. Jacob, I don't know if you were there as well, but it seems like this movie is probably a bit more digestible for folks than Uncut Gems was. They probably got snubbed for a nomination there. I mean, that movie got snubbed fully that year at the Oscars. So, yeah, this might be something that's a bit more digestible and reason to recognize Josh and his work, and also not as crowded of a year. 2019 was insanely stacked. There were like 20 movies that could have been nominated for Best Director. So I think that Josh will make it in this year. Marty Supreme will probably get a couple nominations. Definitely riding that Timothée Chalamet wave. We saw James Mangold get nominated for Best Director last year, directing Timmy, even though he probably should not have been in. So I think Josh is a lock at number 2, at least for me.
Mm-hmm.
Bryan, do you have Josh Safdie on your list?
I would love for him to get nominated, but right now I have him just missing. So that'll be interesting to see.
Snub.
But yeah, I feel like it might be like Uncut Gems got no nominations, and so they're, just approaching like the awards conversation now. So it might just be in a crowded year. He gets sort of pushed out here, and they decide to award Timothy, who does have a lot more, awards nominations in his history. And I think Marty Supreme will get a lot of nominations, but I have it just missing here.
I have Josh Safdie at number 4. I think that the reviews for Marty Supreme have been very strong. And I think that there has been a lot of indicators that Josh Safdie's direction is going to possibly come along with that. I think Marty Supreme is anywhere from like a top 3 to 5 contender for Best Picture right now. And so it's hard for it to be so high in Best Picture and not. I mean, obviously, it didn't direct itself, so that's a bit of an issue. But we will see, because I would not be completely surprised either if Safdie is the snub. Bryan, we still haven't.
If it's a huge hit, like if it like does real significant box office, then it's going to be hard to keep it out of Best Director for me. But without knowing that yet, I think so. I mean, Timothy. I mean, the thing is, he's mostly done IP related stuff, but his box office is always strong. So this will be a real test of, can he carry a movie sort of by himself? Not entirely by himself. He'll have, good reviews. They've been doing some real fun marketing stuff. So I think there's, and it's an A24 movie as well, and they know how to sell their movies and get people out to them. So it could do significant box office, but if it's in the even if it's like One Battle After Another range where it does like 20-25 million opening and is mostly domestic and not international, then for me, I think it'd still be Safdie's on the outside looking in for the here.
It might be just because it's too early. I am a little concerned that general audiences really still don't know what this movie is, or that it is. I was checking the AMC app earlier, and none of my theaters have it listed yet for Christmas Day. That's still a month away, and so sometimes AMC's slow. But like they had a couple other movies ready to go, and so the fact that Marty Supreme's not already slotted on there worries me just a little bit. It'll probably end up coming to Montgomery, but go ahead, Raph.
No, I was just going to say, I think we kind of underestimate the pull that Timothée Chalamet has, especially with younger audience members. Like, people were pulling up to see Wonka, which was like a totally whatever movie, even beyond like Dune. And I think like since the Bob Dylan movie, I think his sort of like lore has only grown. Like we've seen him at the Knicks games, and like he's been doing a lot of cool marketing stuff around this movie in particular, but just like his own, like his whole brand. I think that in the last year, he's like really solidified himself as someone who can be a movie star, in the sense that like people will go to see a movie because Timothy Chalamet is in it. Like the way that people went to see Aaron Brockovich because Julia Roberts was in it. Like I think he's sort of entering that level. And I think, like you guys are saying, this movie will be the test, but maybe it's just because I've already chugged the Kool-Aid that I think it will happen. But I think that I think that
well,
it totally
he did Bones and All in 22, so that was after the first Dune movie, and that one, you know, didn't do significant box office. That was still during COVID and stuff. So,
he wasn't as much of like an internet sensation then as he was now. And I think the Dylan movie, the Dylan movie was like really it.
Yeah. So and turning out, you know, young people to a Dylan movie who maybe aren't as into Bob Dylan as the old fogies like me. So we'll see.
and maybe it'll be a slow rollout, but I'm, you know, as long as people know about the movie, know kind of what it is, and it's available to them at a reasonable time, I think it's going to matter. It's going to be how much box office, especially before the nominations roll in.
Not to drag this out too much more, but it's coming out Christmas Day. Avatar is going to be out. Everyone and their mother is going to go see Avatar that week during Christmas, and they're probably going to be at the theaters, and they're going to say, "Oh, there's a new Timothy Chalamet movie out too. I love that. We're already at the theater. Let's like plan to come back." That's kind of part of the math that I'm doing.
I'm hoping.
What's our mashup title for Marty Supreme and Avatar Fire and Ash? If you're going to do like a double feature, that's going to be a long double feature, because I think Avatar Fire and Ash is over 3 hours, but Oppenheimer was long too, you know?
Well,
yeah.
Is it just Avatar Supreme?
Hours.
It might be Avatar Supreme or Fire Supreme.
Yeah.
Which would be
Marty,
a cool,
Fire and Ash.
Yeah.
We're workshopping it. There's something there.
We'll figure it out. Yeah.
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 Bryan,
but Marty Supreme, strong contender for sure.
Bryan, have we still not gotten to your number 2?
We have not gotten to my number 2. Number 2, I have Joachim Trier for sentimental value. So I have him just missing out, but getting in for Best Picture here.
Gotcha. Wait, your number 2 to get in, or your number 2 to miss out?
Number 2 to get in. Yeah.
Okay.
So I've got PTA 1, Joachim Trier 3, and then Chloe Zhao 3.
Okay, gotcha. So, Raph, do you have Joachim Trier on your 5?
I do. Shout out Charlie XCX, Joachim Trier Summer, Brad Summer. It's coming back. He's number 4 for me.
It's November and I still haven't seen it, so I don't know if we can call it his summer, but
maybe winter.
Next summer. In the post-Oscar win, it'll drop on streaming and everyone will see it.
Well, for me, he's the snub right now.
Wow.
Which is really hard, because I think sentimental value is also in that top 5 or 6 in the Best Picture race probably right now. The problem is it's getting really tough, and someone good has to be left out. Mm-hmm. There have been some reviews that have said maybe sentimental value is a little bit more of a writers and actors movie, and that Trier could maybe be like, out of all the good directors that are on the table, maybe Trier misses. And also, obviously, Trier has never been nominated for Best Director. He has been nominated for Screenplay before. Obviously, the movie's going to get in Screenplay. We'll talk about that later. But for me, and I have another international director on this list. So for me, I decided one international director is going to get in, and Trier is going to be the snub. So that's where I'm at right now.
Director, though, the director's branch really tends to over-index on international compared to other categories. Like Hamaguchi got in for Drive My Car. You had The Zone of Interest and Anatomy of a Fall year where they both got in. So I think I do have both, I'd imagine, the international directors that you're talking about getting in this year with two real strong contender movies. So
Trier is definitely my number 6. And he's a solid 6. And see, I mean, there's about 2 people in my 5 that they could always play musical chairs over that last spot. So Raph, we've got on your list, we've got PTA, we got Chloe Zhao, we've got Safdie,
Safdie.
and we got you said Trier's on your list at 4.
Yeah, he's my number 4. Yeah.
So you're about to round out your list here.
So I've got my
5.
number 5, and I've got a couple of wild cards. One more wild than the other, but my number 5, I got to do it. You know, there really should be more representation this year, considering the fact that Spike Lee directed a movie and he is also one of our GOATs. But he's not my 5. My 5 is Ryan Coogler. The dude is undeniable. Sinners, as much as I've tried to say that Sinners will like slow down, it seems like it still has a ton of momentum. And that video of him describing all the different aspect ratios and like projections that you could see Sinners on, I think has done so much for his career. And like the run that Sinners has had, it would be weird considering how big of a movie Sinners has been to not have him in the 5. Plus, he's like the coolest dude ever. Like, who wouldn't want to hear an Oscars acceptance speech from that dude? You know, I don't know that it's going to happen this year, but let's throw him in because he's the man. Yeah, all praise to Coogler.
Yeah,
Raph, I have been very worried about Ryan Coogler, especially because of last season's Denis Villeneuve snub. A lot of people worry that Ryan Coogler's Sinners could kind of fit that mold where they do go for something like sentimental value and others and don't like Sinners is a little too genre for them and a little too blockbustery. Even though Marty Supreme
I thought you were going to say a little too something else.
and a little too well, you know, I think that's it. Ralph. The Oscars doesn't have the best track record when a black performer or director is on the bubble of choosing the black director or performer. So we can say that. I do have Coogler. I have Coogler in at 5 right now, and I think the thing that keeps Coogler in is that scene. So I mean, if you haven't seen Sinners yet, I don't know what you're doing. It's you can stream it on HBO Max. It's been out for like 6 months now. You know, so but there's a scene where where it's like a one take and all the musicians, past and future, are all rocking out in the juke joint together. And that scene is so immaculate that I think it gives Coogler a little bit of a boost. I mean, he does a good job, obviously, of directing the entire movie, but I think the rest of the movie, you could probably get by and be like, this is really good direction, but it's not like anything next level that you have to honor. But that scene is like, okay, this guy is working on another level. And so I think that kind of boosts him in. But that means, Raph, that your snub out of what I think is our 6 that we're really talking about here, because Bryan has already hinted that he has him on the list, is Jafar Panahi for It Was Just an Accident. We talked about this earlier in the year in our best picture predictions. Y'all know I was like not as high on It Was Just an Accident. I doubted it a little bit. I thought it could end up like Seed of a Sacred Fig. And just because it won the Palme d'Or, it didn't necessarily mean it was going to play. But I think it continues to kind of stay steady. And I think Panahi overcoming censorship to make the movie is an obvious, easy narrative to go for. And apparently, the last 20 minutes of the film really solidify his direction. Whereas some people say the
Mhm.
direction isn't special before then. It's that ending that will stick with you that maybe puts Panahi in this race. So I actually have Panahi at 3 right now because I think it's either one of the international directors being left out or one of the Safdie or Coogler because it's a little too blockbuster. So, but Bryan, you have Panahi rounding out your list.
I do. I have him at number 5. Similar to what you said, the narrative of, a director who's been banned from making films but has continued to make them, was imprisoned himself. So it's a very personal story for him. I think there's enough strength to the narrative and respect for what Panahi did in the director's branch to get him a slot here. And then I also do, so rounding out my list, I've got Coogler at 4. It's an absolute disaster if he doesn't get in. He's of these 6 directors, and we don't know the box office on some of these yet, but he's the one who was the draw to Sinners, right? People showed up because Ryan Coogler, who they know from Black Panther and Creed, directed this original movie. And so he did have that like breakout success that was due to, oh, this is a Ryan Coogler movie, so this is an event, let's go see it. So I think it's a real disaster if he doesn't get in for it.
That's such a good point. That's really similar to Nolan with like Oppenheimer, right? People went to see Oppenheimer because it was a Christopher Nolan vehicle,
Yeah.
and Coogler is in a similar way a name brand director, the same way that Nolan, PTA, Scorsese, all those other guys are. But he also draws in insane numbers because he's an incredible director. And it would, I think that's a great point about leaving him off.
Yeah.
Because it's not like people were going to see the Michael B. Jordan movie. They were going to see the Ryan Coogler directed flick.
Yeah, you can count on one hand the number of directors who can open a movie these days, right? It's him, Jordan Peele, Greta Gerwig, Chris Nolan, right? I don't know if there's anybody else who can reliably open a big box office movie by themselves. I mean, Villeneuve, but hasn't tested it in a while. So, yeah. Maybe
very short list.
Some other horror
Tarantino
guys.
would, but
Tarantino, yeah, that's a good point. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood did well, but it's been a while again.
Yeah, it's a very short list. It's not even 10 people, and Coogler is very much so one of them.
And the only real reason to be worried for Coogler is again certain histories of the Oscars with black directors and certain histories with like Villeneuve being snubbed last year, and just like maybe Academy tastes in terms of content. But we all agree Coogler's getting in, which I think is pretty interesting. I think
I mean, you could say that Warner Brothers is going to, because they're campaigning to people that they're going to, probably lean hard into the PTA and maybe not campaign as hard for Coogler.
It's an argument. I mean, PTA seems so like self-establishing. Warner Brothers probably can manage it, obviously. Raph, I'm curious because I think Bryan and I have the same top 6. Exactly. Do you have Panahi as your first honorable mention, or is he further out?
No, he's not one of my honorable mentions right now. He's at like number 8 for me. That could easily change once I actually see this movie. I just haven't been as plugged in on some of the reviews because I kind of want to go in as naked as possible. That's not the phrasing, but I'm going in naked. So he's not one of my one of my wild cards, but very easily could be after I actually see it was just an accident. Do you want both? Do you want one?
Just sure, give them both.
What's the deal?
Give them both at us. It's fine.
Okay. The first one is Yorgos. I haven't seen Begonia yet, but he's someone who we know that the Academy enjoys. There's a good chance that he gets directed just because Yorgos Lanthimos made a new movie this year. The other wild card is someone who also kind of fits that bill and didn't direct a great movie this year. And I feel like all of the 6 directors that we named are people who directed movies that are by all accounts good. And it would just feel wrong for the Academy to only nominate 5 really strong directors or 5 really strong people within a given category. That just wouldn't feel right, right? Like there has to be one where everyone's like, what is that?
Yeah.
Why is that person there? Why is that movie being recognized? So my other wild card is Catherine Bigelow because the Academy loves her, and we need one person to be thrown in there for what the hell is, why are they being recognized? So she gets that spot for me.
Well, I think it's interesting. Those are wild cards that are still a little bit further down on my list. My next wild card up, and this is so hard to understand how this movie is playing out and whether it will play out with the Academy. It could be on the cusp of the Best Picture race, which would help it get in, which is Park Chan-wook for No Other Choice. There's possibilities that Neon tries to slip No Other Choice as a third film into the Best Picture race. But it's so hard because he's been snubbed before, and that movie still doesn't come out until Christmas, and I just can't get a good beat on it. Bryan, was that one of your wild card choices left on the table?
Yeah, I think we've covered most of my wild cards, but I'll throw one more in there. And it's Guillermo del Toro. Jacob, have you seen Frankenstein yet? Raph and I were talking about Frankenstein.
I've been beating the drum. I was beating the drum from the early season that Frankenstein was the front runner for Best Picture, and it's come out, and now both of you guys have seen it, and I still have not. I really want to be in the right space to see it. I know you guys do not really like it.
It's awful. It's really
easily
bad.
his worst movie. Easily his worst movie.
And it's really funny because it's really funny because I had a lot of faith in it, and then it came out at did it come out at Venice? Because it came out, I think it came out at
Venice. Yeah.
And got pretty lukewarm reviews and was like, oh, this is not really going to be a thing. And then it went to TIFF, and it came runner-up for People's Choice behind Hamnet. And then it comes out on Netflix, and even though there's folks like you who are like, this is Guillermo del Toro's like worst movie, and it's really bad, and there's people like that. There's also a lot of people that love this movie, and a lot of people that are putting it in like their top 5, and it went from being like on the bubble to like I think solidly number 6 or 7 right now in the Best Picture race, because there just seem to be so many people that disagree with y'all and think it's a masterpiece, and it's a weirdly divisive film. It's not what I expected, but obviously the Academy does love Del Toro, and it's not like they would just be throwing him a bone. This movie's better received than Nightmare Alley, and I'm sure y'all probably agree the production design is the production design as good as people think?
In Frankenstein?
Production design is fine. The problem is the way that it's shot and the CGI are both just dreadful.
I don't personally love the production design.
It's okay.
Everything from the marketing materials, the production design looked incredible. Maybe the way it comes out on screen, and maybe it's a Del Toro issue. Maybe there's a maybe Netflix involvement. Maybe
the Netflixification of movies.
The Netflixification of Del Toro.
Yeah,
that's interesting because I would think that the production design and the hair and makeup and the costumes from just the marketing materials would be like up there. So they feel like they're competing for techs.
Perhaps, but to me, it kind of falls into the Wicked category of like, sure, it's okay, but like none of it feels like it's in service of anything in the movie, and it all falls kind of flat because everything around it is extremely flat and lifeless. So like even those things come across as flat and lifeless. So, but like I was saying with Bigelow, the Academy loves Del Toro. We know that Netflix is going to have to find something to push hard for, and we don't know if it's going to be Frankenstein. We don't know if it's going to be House of Dynamite. We don't know if it's going to be something else. But like, they could end up nominating one of the two because Netflix is going to push hard, and we know that the Academy tends to give us some questionable nominations. Like between like the 6 or
It's
whatever
been
that we all had, that's like that's too many good movies. That's too many good directors. We're giving the Academy too much credit.
Yeah, that's
I think
fair.
it
And
is.
Netflix does overperform in nominations, not necessarily in wins. They haven't been able to bring home a lot of wins, particularly in Best Picture, but they're always there for nominations, showing up more than predicted.
Speaking of, to round out the conversation as we wrap up, Wicked, Wicked for Good has been, a staple of the Best Picture race up until this past week, as it debuted to pretty negative, pretty middling critical reviews. However, audiences are really just eating it up, the same as they ate up the first one. The audience scores are all like on par with part one. Personally, I saw it. My review's out on the website, ScreenAge Wasteland. You can check that out. I gave it 3.5 stars, which on my system, 3 stars is like straight mid, and 3.5 is like some redeeming qualities over mid. So it's not great. I do think John M. Chu had an opportunity to try and challenge, which will really boil the skin of some people. But I think he had an opportunity to challenge in this category if Wicked for Good had charmed critics and if people who had seen the stage production agreed that he had transformed a paltry second act of the stage production into a much better finale. But it doesn't seem that he did that. And so I think he's well out of the conversation now, although he still may show up somewhere like Critics' Choice. Raf?
Oh no, I was just saying that it would boil my blood if he did get nominated for best director,
Yeah, I mean,
because like
there's some
like we've been saying,
vitriol for the way it's shot and things. Personally, I didn't have a real
ye-
problem with his direction this time. I thought some things about his direction were really good, and some things about his direction were pretty weak, and it kind of levels out. So, but I think he's a
yeah,
non-factor in this race.
I think he's a non-factor. If it looks and feels like the first one, it doesn't deserve to even come close to like getting nominated for anything, let alone best director. The one thing I'll say, another wild card that I think is very funny that we have all left out, but like someone else who's undeniable, James Cameron has an Avatar movie coming
Oh
out.
yeah. Yeah.
I don't think that he'll get in just because like there's so many strong flicks coming, and like he's gotten all of his praise, he's gotten all of his flowers. But it is interesting that he is like looming over all of this, and we didn't mention him at all.
Well, that is a segue into next week's video, which we're about to film in just a moment. Um, if Avatar ever has a strong screenplay, it changes everything. The reason that Avatar is not competing at the top for Best Picture is really weak screenplay. And so if somehow the screenplay for Avatar Fire and Ash is like actually really solid and moving and functional, you could suddenly be looking at a lot more oomph for Avatar. But if the screenplay does what the first two have done, you're just looking at the same old categories, and it feels like Cameron won't have the strength to probably get in on a third movie in the franchise. On if the, but if the movie's screenplay is great, then it could be like a classic because everything else about the movie is spectacular. So it is what it is. But we will be discussing screenplay in just a few minutes, and for our viewers, that will be next week. So thank you guys for joining, and we will catch you guys in the wasteland.